23 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It boggles my mind sometimes that we have people elected into office who don't seem to get what this country is about. They don't seem to understand what the Constitution is about. They don't have to take a test. You have to take a test. You have to pass a test to be a lawyer, a doctor. To put a roof on a house, you have to have a license. But you don't have to even show that you understand the Constitution to be elected into office in this country. It's an amazing thing. There was a story that I'm going to try to paraphrase because I don't really know the whole the factual part of this. But in the Constitutional Convention back in 17 whatever, Benjamin Franklin came out of the closed door meeting, and a lady in the street says to him, "So what do we have?" And he says, "A republic, if you can keep it," or something to that nature, right? And the "if you can keep it" part is the interesting part, because when we have people who don't understand what this country is about, we often are at risk of losing what we have. Dr. Paul L. Williams has done an incredible job in trying to express the fragility, the fragileness of this nation. He has written a book called The Killing of Uncle Sam, and I am telling you that this is getting really great reviews on Amazon. It's #1 right now in the economic conditions category. It is #4 in the economic. Oh, that's a different. Oh, that's the Kindle version in the same category. So he's twice in that same category. He's #11 in political economy, and the same thing with the Kindle version. He is an award-winning journalist, a contributor to USA Today, The Counterterrorist, Newsmax, The Wall Street Journal, National Review. He served as a consultant on organized crime and international terrorism for the FBI, and it goes on and on and on. Some really great credentials here. He's also the author of the book, The Unholy Alliance Between the Vatican, the CIA, and the Mafia. Oh, man. That sounds like a good one, too. The Killing of Uncle Sam, The Demise of the United States of America. Dr. Paul Williams, it's an honor to have you on our show. Good morning, sir.
Well, it's great to be with you, Larry. Thank you.
You did a lot of research for this book.
Well, the reader should understand. I'm an obsessive compulsive, and what my background was in medieval philosophy, and when I was in graduate school, what I did was my topic of my dissertation was Peter Abelard. So instead of dealing with books written about Peter Abelard, I had to go back to the original text, go back to Abelard's original Latin manuscripts, translate them, and then present exactly what he had to say for himself. Not what others thought about him or what others said about him, but present him as he was. Now that's what I did tried to do with it. I spent years on this book. It's going back to an organization that was formed at the end of the 19th century in London, an organization that was formed that tried to take control of the world, of all the world government. And it was an organization formed by Cecil Rhodes and the wealthiest men in Britain at that time, including Nathan Rothschild. And their organization was called the Society of the Elect. And what I did was I went back to the original writings of Rhodes, of Rothschild, of Reginald Brett, all these original members of the society, and discerned exactly what they intended to do and exactly what they did do. Not a conspiracy theory, but something that can be documented by footnote after footnote after footnote. There are 1,500 footnotes in the book. But this is what happened. In 1877, Cecil John Rhodes, who had made a fortune from the diamond mines in South Africa, got together with Nathan Rothschild and a group of other British aristocrats, and they formed a society, and they gained control of the government under Queen Victoria, and they instigated the Second Boer War, and they took control of all of South Africa. After doing that, they formed a branch of their society in New York, and it was called the Pilgrim Society. And the members of the Pilgrim Society consisted of the wealthiest and most powerful men in America. J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, by Andrew Carnegie, and they met weekly at the Waldorf Astoria in New York, and they laid plans for gaining control of the United States economy and the United States government. They laid plans, and they executed the plans. And you got to realize that these people were so interrelated, like Rothschild was so interrelated with other international bankers that they intermarried. The Rothschilds were intermarried with the Warburgs, with the Goldmans, with the Sachs, with the Kuhns and the Loebs. They were all intermarried. And in the United States, John Moody wrote in 1905 that it was impossible for anyone to discern the difference between the holdings of Andrew Carnegie and the holdings of J.P. Morgan. And he also wrote that it's equally impossible to discern the holdings of J.P. Morgan from that of John D. Rockefeller. Their interests were all intermingled. And people have to understand that. And they got together because they wanted to maintain, to do away with all competition and to gain control of the U.S. economy. They met in New York. You can get their minutes. You can read what they have to say for themselves. What they did was, working with their counterparts in England, the Society of the Elect, they created the Federal Reserve in 1913. Came out of a small group of internationalists who met in New York once again. By creating the Federal Reserve, they gained control of the U.S. economy. Americans are unaware of this. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It's not a reserve,
right,
and it's not a system. It's owned by independent shareholders, and these shareholders are international bankers. So our economy now is controlled by internationalists, not by Americans. The money that we produce, if you take $1 from your wallet, it says Federal Reserve note. It doesn't say United States government note. It's not. It's the Federal Reserve took control of the United States economy. They could make money. They could print money at will. They could stop printing money. They could create a recession. They could create prosperity. And to this day, they continue to do so. You might think the chairman of the Fed is appointed by the president. No. The real powerhouse of the Federal Reserve is the Federal Reserve of New York. There are 13 Federal Reserves, the banks throughout the United States, most powerful ones in New York. So they meet, and they control the economy.
So aside from simply having a lot of money, what was the reason for that? If obviously without the country, then they don't have anything, because the country provides them with a safe place to be, with the defense system, for example, that we have, or with the infrastructure simply to drive from point A to point B, or the airports. I mean, without that, they have nothing. So why would they want to take it over? Why weren't they happy just to have the money? I mean, why wasn't that enough?
You never have enough money. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to make sure that other people in the world, for instance, the Germans, in 1905, 1906, 1907, the German Empire after Bismarck was growing by leaps and bounds. They were taking control of the newly created oil industry. They were taking even control of the oil in Iran. And at that time, they posed such a threat to these international bankers that they created World War I. World War I was not caused by the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. I mean, that's ridiculous. That wouldn't make sense to a village idiot if you told them.
Well, and
World War,
a theory of our listeners, and this is not just mine, but our listeners are pretty sharp, and their theory is almost always that almost all wars are rooted in money.
Absolutely. World War I's no exception. But by you got to understand this, Larry, too. But by controlling the economy wasn't enough. Like you said with the government. After creating the Federal Reserve, they imposed the graduated income tax system on the American people. Before then, we didn't have an income tax.
Yeah, right.
And with the income tax, what they could do is they could tax the people saying, oh, this is for the war. We have to support the war. And it's graduated, so it will soak the rich. But it didn't. The rich formed tax shelters, and that was written right into the system. And the tax shelters were foundations. And through these foundations, it became worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. They began to allocate funds to universities, colleges, schools throughout the country. And by allocating so much money to these schools, they gained control of the schools. The schools were beholden to them in order to continue their operation. Gaining control of the
you had said that the CIA was created because of them also.
Exactly. They created not only the graduated income tax and the Federal Reserve, they created the Council on Foreign Relations. From the Council on Foreign Relations came every Secretary of State that we have every single one, and the Undersecretaries of State. So they gained control of the government that way. And from the Council on Foreign Relations, from the bowels of the Council on Foreign Relations, came the Bank of International Settlements, came the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, came the World Trade Organization, and the United Nations, and came the CIA, as you just mentioned. And with the CIA, who answers to the CIA? The president doesn't direct the activities. No, people aren't aware of this. The covert operations of the CIA are not funded by the government.
Isn't that something?
The people who are really in charge, does their amount of wealth make Donald Trump look like a pauper?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what
absolutely.
I thought. So is he part of that, or is he not part of that?
Yeah, I don't think he's actually a part of it. He never was part of it. No, his wealth compared to, we see real wealth is not money. There's a distinction between wealth and money. Real wealth is natural resources: gold, natural gas, food, water, heroin. This is what constitutes real wealth, and these people have the real wealth. Back in the 1930s, Franklin Delano Roosevelt confiscated all the gold from the American citizen. All the gold.
Right.
Part of our history that nobody's aware of.
Well, I know it from your book. It was in your book that I learned that. So, is it fair to say that based on what you're saying right now, it sounds like the opening remarks that I had regarding the question to Benjamin Franklin and his answer that we have a republic if you can keep it, we don't have that. A republic would be that I elect somebody to represent me, and so my desires are represented and therefore influential as to policy. But it sounds like that's not what's happening at all. It sounds like whatever policy is put into place is done by something else.
Well, think about this, Larry and Robin, that right now, I just came out of New York City, and going into New York is like going into Calcutta. I mean, it's filthy, it's covered with litter, the infrastructures are archaic beyond belief. The tunnels, even the bridge in New York, the GW Bridge, was built in the 1930s. I mean, nothing has been... Getting in there and getting out of there is impossible. And yes, this is the American people. We spent $3 trillion to rebuild Iraq. Did the American people decide that?
Yeah,
do we have any say in that at all?
Right, wow, good point. Yeah.
I mean, do we have any say that we're rebuilding Afghanistan right now? That we're providing universal health care for the people in Iraq? We wouldn't provide that for our own people. We'd say, oh, no, the government. But we're doing that throughout the world.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. You are getting really great reviews because of what you're saying right now on Amazon, and I'm guessing elsewhere. The book, just to reintroduce you, is called "The Killing of Uncle Sam: The Demise of the United States of America." Our guest is one of the authors. There are two authors on this one. Make sure we want to mention Rodney Howard-Browne as well.
Great guy, yeah.
Dr. Paul L. Williams is our guest, one and the second author on the book. So are you enlightening people who've never heard this before? As talk show hosts, we've heard little bits and pieces of this. I don't think anybody has, in a what's the word I'm looking for? A comprehensive way, put it all together, though. But I've heard one guest or another guest bringing some of this, but you put it all together.
Well, look, I was blessed that way with becoming... It's not that I'm a brain or anything, but I was born an obsessive compulsive. If I was cleaning your house would be spotless. You wouldn't find a speck of dust. And And that's just when I started to look at this cabal who had really taken over the country and destroyed it. I went back to them. I read them, and I did all the research that I possibly could. So, it took me years and years and years just to, and I've written 15 books to do this one.
Can I ask you to comment on a couple of things? And the only reason I'm bringing these up is because, as a talk show host, there's a good possibility that I don't know what I'm talking about. That's a good possibility. However, when things are in the news and there's a question, I like to ask the question. And sometimes just asking the question gets people riled up and start calling me a conspiracy theorist or something like that. And I'm not Alex. Right. I'm not Alex Jones. I don't do that. I just want to know the truth. Is there anything to some of the conspiracy theory things that is true that we should consider to be true? Is there anything about 9/11 or the Kennedy assassination or maybe something I'm not thinking about right now? Is there anything that we have not been told the truth about?
Well, look, I agree with you. There are things that I am not a pyrotechnical expert, but looking at 9/11, there are many flags that have been raised that people should be aware of. One, I mean, the way that the structures collapsed and a building that seemed to just building number 7 that collapsed by itself. Then you have the fact that while the planes are flying into the World Trade Center, Cheney gives a stand down order not to shoot the planes, to remove NORAD from taking action. Then you have that after that everything collapsed in New York, instantly the rebels removed. So nobody could conduct an investigation to see if any pyrotechnical substances were involved. And then you had the insider trading. Before it's. There's so much about it.
Yeah,
that's mysterious.
So, and does this dovetail with the theories or the information in the book?
Well, the thing about you got to realize that dealing with Afghanistan, going back to 1947 when the CIA was formed, the CIA received not one dime in covert operations. Even going back into 1947, this came out in Senate hearings and congressional hearings, that the CIA's money came from the heroin trade.
Wow.
We brought the CIA with Lucky Luciano brought the first heroin in 1947 into the United States, and that began to fund the CIA's. This is all fact, covert operations. So before 1947, there were only 20,000 heroin users in the United States. After 1947, you have and it was brought into the black communities, and it was the CIA at that time figured that the African Americans, since they liked jazz and went to jazz clubs, would be suckers for heroin, and they brought it in, and by the Vietnam era. Heroin became so important that we had to protect our interests, and that was part of the reason we were in Vietnam. But heroin right now is the third most valuable commodity on planet Earth. The third most valuable. In 2008, when we had that recession, the only liquid capital flowing through the banks, the only capital, Larry, came from the heroin trade.
Wow. Dr. Williams is our guest, Dr. Paul Williams. I want to make sure that we give the listeners an opportunity to get the book. I wanted to ask you, though, before we do that, is the book a red flag in itself? Can it possibly serve us so that we are maybe more aware of what's going on, and therefore maybe we can return this country to the republic it was supposed to be?
Yes, it can. And this is one thing I want people to know. I don't make any money from this book. All the money from this book goes to the River School of Government so that people can be informed about what happened to the country and so that they can take positive action. They have to be aware of this. I'm not here huckstering, my own book for my own welfare. I know. Neither is Rodney Howard-Browne. Every dime goes to the River School of Government. But there are things that people can do, and they have to be aware of it. Number one, they have to audit the Fed. that a group of foreigners control our economy. I mean, this is madness.
No, man. Is it
Madness.
I mean, everybody who's ever had anything to do with the IRS knows it's just horrendous.
Horrendous.
Yeah. All right. So let me give away the copy. You sent us a copy of the book. If you would like, as a listener, if you would like The Killing of Uncle Sam, The Demise of the United States of America, this is a huge book. This is probably the most researched book we've talked about on this show in a very long time. That has nothing to do with medicine, by the way. We do have some well-researched medical books. Call me right now, 622-9622. We'll set it aside for you. It'll be waiting for you here at the station. The rest of us have to go buy it. I will real quickly tell you, I found it on Amazon, where it's unbelievably doing well. 17 reviews, and every single one of them is a 5-star review. Do you have a website you want to recommend?
Yeah, the website that the website right now that I'd like people to go to is The Killing of Uncle Sam book.com. They can download a chapter there and read it for free.
Okay, let me pick a caller at random here and give this one away. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Oh, wow. Candy Cole.
Candy. Do you know where we are?
I think so.
Yeah, we're in the Paddock Mall, and we're
Yep, I know where you are.
and we're just outside the food court. We're not inside the building.
Yep.
Okay.
I know exactly where you are.
All right, you come and pick it up. It'll be waiting for you.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that was the phone was ringing off the hook, by the way, just so you know.
That's great.
We only had one, but everybody the book is available. Let me see. Is it a Kindle book also? A lot of people ask that question.
It's a Kindle. Yeah, it's a Kindle book. The audio book will be released next week. And you got to realize. Let me say one other thing, Larry and Robin. That the people that go to the River School of Government, if this book is successful, like I hope it will be, they can go to the school for free.
Wow.
They can go to the school for free, and they can be trained so that they can enter into politics, and so that they can really address things that have to be addressed, like ending the endless wars.
Are the people who fight against Trump are they in some way being influenced by the people who really control this country?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything is controlled. What's happening in Syria? It's all about money. You can only understand it by following the money trail. And what's taking place internationally is it can. For instance, in Syria right now, the reason that we have troops and President Trump has gone along with this. We have troops embedded with the Kurds at the Turkish government. Now, why? I mean, we have no vested interest in Syria. We certainly don't want to instigate a war with Turkey, but we have thousands of troops embedded with the Kurdish forces on the border of Turkey. It makes no sense until you realize that Syria is of such critical importance for the money cartel to tap the vast resources at the basin of the Caspian Sea.
Right.
And if you lose sight of the money, you can't understand it. You can't understand the invasion of Iraq.
And you know what disgusts me about that? And a lot of us have suspected that very thing. What disgusts me is that there are men who have dedicated their lives to protecting this country. We call them soldiers, we call them sailors, we call them Marines, and they are losing their lives so that somebody else can have money.
Absolutely. It happened to me in 1968. I'm 74 now, and I underwent the draft. And what happened was then Lyndon B. Johnson appeared on national TV on all the stations. And he said, listen, a terrible thing happened. Last night, the North Vietnamese fired on our fleet on the Gulf of Tonkin. There are hundreds of dead. I remember like it was yesterday. Hundreds and hundreds of dead soldiers floating in the Gulf of Tonkin, and we have to take action. Oh, guess what? Guys like me ended up drafted. And do you know something? It was all a lie. There was no Vietnamese forces fired on the U.S. fleet. Not one shot was fired against the American fleet. And there were no dead soldiers, no dead sailors. It was all a lie. And it goes on, but the people of the United States put up with it. Oh, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. We have to go in there. Oh, Assad now has weapons. Please. lie after lie
Wow.
after lie.
Doctor, you've got everybody's attention. The phone is ringing off the hook. We have to say goodbye to Dr. Williams, but I would recommend getting the book. Go to the website killingunclesambook.com or go to Amazon and you'll be able to get the book. And he said the audio is coming out soon. Right now, Kindle and actual book are both available online. Both by the way, under $20. So it's a really good deal. Thank you, Dr. Williams. That was interesting stuff.
Hey, thank you. It's been great to be with you guys.
All right, good luck. Thank you for what you're doing, by the way. We will be right back.
Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Lisa McGinnis, editor of Ocala Magazine and host of Ocala Magazine Radio. Join me every Friday at 10 a.m. when we bring the pages of Ocala Magazine to life. There's only one Ocala Magazine and only one source for local news talk.